Hello everyone. So today we're going to be reacting to Fortitude, the new album by Gojira. It was just released today. I can't really express how excited I am for this. It's been since 2016 that they released their last album, Magma. And that's kind of when I came into the fold in terms of being a Gojira fan. I had listened to them before that, but that's when I kind of saw their appeal more. The song that really did it for me was Ouroboros, the title track off of their album, The Way of All Flesh. And that was one of my favorite metal songs for a period of time. But I really liked the change of direction they made with Magma. I felt like it was more of a stoner rock, stoner metal, maybe even like a little doom metal, atmospheric version of their progressive metal that they had done up until that point. It still had elements from their previous albums, but it was a bit more well-rounded, I would say. They had a lot more variety of sounds, but then at the same time, it felt consistent. It felt like one full album, one full unit, as opposed to their other albums that kind of, well, a lot of times they tend to have songs, like each of their song has to have a solo. It has to have a really heavy section if the rest of the song wasn't very heavy compared to some of their other stuff. And it had to be one total experience, every single song. With Magma, I felt like they were sort of breaking away from that, but they still did that to a certain extent. But it felt like each song had its own place on the album. Each song was its own artistic statement. And I feel like, I think they're kind of going for that with this album again, although it seems to be somewhat going back to their older style. Like it's a combination between, I'm probably going to butcher this, L'Enfant Sauvage and Magma, sort of a compromise between the two. It's a little heavier. The tracks that I've heard seem a little heavier than Magma, but less heavy than L'Enfant Sauvage. So far, I've heard 4 of the pre-album release tracks. So I've heard Born for One Thing, Amazonia, Another World, and Into the Storm. I did not listen to The Chant because that came out, I think, less than a week ago, and I wanted to just wait for this album to drop and to just do the song with the reaction with the rest of the album. And yeah, 5 tracks as a teaser for the album is kind of too much. It's almost half the album. So I'm going to be going through the entire album, listening to the entire album, and but for the tracks that I just listed that I have already heard, I'm only going to be showing a little bit of them here, and then I'm going to be showing more of the other tracks, but probably none of the full tracks because I don't want this video to get blocked. So it's probably going to be on the longer side. This video is probably going to be on the longer side, but still, I'm not going to be doing the entirety of any of the songs. So keep that in mind. So without further delay, let's press play.
We were born
Yeah, that's a great track. Yeah, that's in terms of the singles that were released, that's probably my second favorite. My favorite is Another World. That was actually one of my favorite tracks that came out last year, period. It didn't get a great reception, which I don't quite understand. I love that track. But this one is great. It's classic, typical Gojira. Yeah, like not their heaviest, not their lightest, kind of middle of the road. And I don't mean that as a negative. It's just good old fashioned Gojira. The production is one thing that has kind of bothered me so far. Aside from Another World, which seems like it was recorded in another world, the others seem to go more towards that, like, I don't want to say lo-fi, but like intentionally lower quality or more compressed production that Mastodon went for on Emperor of Sand, their last album. That while these tracks so far that I've heard sound a bit better than that album, the album's production, anyways. It doesn't seem to fit Gojira. That's my only complaint that I've heard that I have so far of the tracks that I've heard. But let's see what they do with the rest of the tracks. Love that riff. That's the best part of the song. Yeah, that's another great track. Not as good as the opening track. I don't think the chorus is as strong as Born for One Thing, but that opening riff, that tribal riff is so infectious, so groovy. I've heard people already mention that it's very reminiscent of mid-career Sepultura, like on their Roots album. But that I just have to say one thing: the bridge in this song, I really like the bridge. It's really cool and kind of eerie in a way, but I feel like it would have fit better towards the end of the album. Now I haven't heard the rest of the album, so I don't know if that is true. But it seems like a moment that would come towards, like, thematically would come towards the end of an album. Like, it would be the sort of climax where everyone's like in a war movie where everyone's looking around. It's like, what is happening? It's all slow motion and like dramatic and everything like that. And it's like, are we going to defeat the evil fires that are destroying our forests? I'm not being sarcastic. Obviously, that's a real issue. But I don't know. It just to me, it seems a little early in the album for that, but that's so nitpicky that it doesn't even really matter. Love this riff here. This is like my favorite riff from them. I was curious as to whether they would change the production on this song. I can't really tell now. I think it sounds closer to the production of the other songs, so they might have lowered the quality or at least made it comparable to the other tracks' production style. It didn't feel as out of place as I would have thought it was. It does still feel a bit clearer than the previous two tracks. The first 3.5 minutes is some of my favorite Gojira ever. I know that's a bold statement. Not a lot of people love this track, but I do. So we got our first new track in Hold On, the next track. So hold on. Yeah.
I've been grinding and grinding.
yeah, the opening of that really took me by surprise. I don't know, it sounded like an 80s arena rock band or something. I'm like, I don't know if I like this. It's just very anthemic. But oh man, I'm not gonna make another hold on pun. But I kept going with it, and yeah, I mean the initial part was interesting. I don't know if I like it yet. I'm gonna have to come back to it, obviously. But when it got to that riff, that pummeling riff, I was like, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. It still felt very anthemic. The chorus, the hold on, fight. I think that's what it says, fight. They're going more towards, dare I say, hard rock direction with this album, even more so than the last album. Even though the last album was overall, from what I can tell, the last album, from what I can tell of this album so far, the last album was lighter, was more atmospheric, but it was doing something stylistically interesting that you couldn't just say, oh, well, they're just going soft, because it's more like they're taking a detour, like to a different kind of heaviness, like a different kind of atmosphere. Whereas this, it's like they're taking their core sound, what they were more known for before Magma. I was gonna say Magnum, not Magnum. They're taking their sound that people, the sound that people most associate with them, and they're just kind of like making it more accessible to a wider audience. They're they're kind of doing what Mastodon did with Emperor of Sand. But I don't think they're going as far. They still maintain that metal aesthetic and it still is like brutal enough that we can headbang to it and such. Curious to hear what the whole afterwards, the summation of the whole package will be. This is groovy. It sounds like it's tying back into another lyric section. Yeah, this is like classic. Yeah, that track had the kind of sound that Gojira does sometimes that I would have normally not been a fan of. And they usually have at least a couple tracks on every album where it's like a heavier track where they don't have a lot of melody, and it's kind of, I don't know, I guess off kilter, or it's just like the rhythm is off or something like that. It's not as accessible in some way. And they did that, yet made it accessible, if that makes sense. Like the groove, I really enjoyed the groove, although it's like, it didn't get to the point where it's like the really infectious, like headbanging, like 4/4 groove. But then they had the chorus come in, and that was super interesting. I really liked the chorus. It seemed like it shouldn't fit in this type of song, but I think that's what helped make the song more enjoyable too, is that they had melody. They had the verse that was kind of dissonant, and it's hard to explain. It's not like the most infectious thing for me, like not my favorite kind of sound, but then the chorus came in and helped that. But I still liked it. I still really overall really enjoyed it. It's the longest track on the album, so I guess that's their progressive song. And that felt the most like classic Gojira. But at the same time, they added new elements in. It's hard to decipher my thoughts on that, which is typical for Gojira. That's why I think they're a great band. Many people can have many different opinions on them, and even amongst their fans, they have varying opinions on which album is the best and which songs are the best and what section of each song is the best. One thing I want to point out that I wish I did at the beginning is that my main issue with Gojira is, well, I guess that sound I was trying to talk about. A lot of times they'll interject that sound into a song where it doesn't fit. Take, for example, Silvera. So that track, I love that track. I would say that that is a 10 out of 10 Gojira track if it weren't for the very short bridge in that song. It lasts maybe 10 seconds, maybe 15, I don't know, but it comes right before the last chorus, and it not only does it not add anything to the song, but it actually detracts from it, in that the song just, everything in the song felt in unison. Is a very anthemic, very short track. It solidifies their sound so well and kind of condenses it for in an accessible package for mainstream consumption, but still appeases the fans. And then they have to put in a section that's dissonant and heavier because they feel like if they don't do that, then they won't appease the fans. But for me, like, maybe because I'm a newcomer to the band, like, you don't need to have a heavy and or dissonant section in every single song. Like, each song can stand on its own. Like, if you want to make a whole song like that, you can. If you want to put that kind of section in a song, that makes where it is a surprise, then you can. It's just that they put it in like almost every song they do, and that is my main criticism of Gojira. I love this band, but I feel like they haven't made the album that they could make because of that, because they have too many tracks that do that. And even there's very few of their songs that I would say are 10 out of 10 songs, but the ones that are some of my favorite, not only my favorite metal songs, but some of my favorite songs ever. So far, this album, I think it's only one track has done that. Hold On kind of did that. And then I think Newfound maybe kind of, like they had the verse, but that's different because it was the core of the song. It wasn't like an added section in the song. So I'm really hoping that by the end of this album, I don't find very many of those moments. And if that's true, then, I mean, I don't know. It could end up being a contender for my favorite Gojira album solely because of, not solely because of that. Like, the songs so far have been great. But at the very least, I'll be happy that they didn't rely on that trope that I don't think they need, because they are amazing musicians. Like, in terms of their playing skill, of course, but also their artistic abilities. They have a breadth of artistic imagination, and they are showing it more here, even though they're being more accessible. So it's that contradiction again. They're hard to pin down. Of course, the obligatory instrumental. Of course, Gojira need the obligatory instrumental song in every one of their albums, which is, yeah, it's welcome. It breaks it up. Yeah, it's interesting them, with this album, they're taking their style, their typical style, a lot of what they've done before, but then adding in more accessible vocal elements, which it works. And I mean, I hopefully they can gain a wider audience with this. It already seems like they're picking up steam on Spotify, so I hope the best for them. That's why it's called the chant. Vocal style is like magma. Get hold of yourself, rise above. Better part of you, immortal. It's funny, after saying that I had appreciated the accessible vocal style so far on the album, with this track, it started to annoy me a little bit. I think mostly because they repeated it so much, the chant they repeated so much, that it was most of the song, and this felt more like a jam song than like a song, which is interesting. I kind of appreciate that on principle for a Gojira track, because like I said, they often have to fill each song with everything they do, like a drum solo, a guitar solo, whatever, like have every song fulfill that metal song need. And this song felt like kind of its own thing in a way. But at the same time, yeah, it got a little annoying, and I was kind of checking out a little bit, because it was a little drony. But I mean, it sounded good. It sounded cool. So maybe this is just like the chill track for like kind of like take a little break. Wow, that was actually seemed like it was going into From Mars to Sirius territory. The brutal vocals and the verses, and just that pick sliding, and that it had that dissonant guitar tone that I was saying that isn't my favorite, but that's about as well as I could see them doing it. That was one of the best so far on the album. beginning of this part really reminds me of the cell off of Magma. Yeah, that's a good track. The transitions aren't the smoothest that they've ever done. They're like a little bit sloppy at some points. But the individual sections are good. The grooves, that initial groove, or when it gets really heavy initially, is awesome. The chorus is probably their most accessible mainstream sounding, rock sounding chorus that they've done yet. Like raise your fists in the air. Yeah, I don't know. They pull it off well enough. I like this so far. I really like this one. Yeah, I love that song. I think aside from Another World, that might be my favorite track off the album, weirdly enough. They're able to do a song that doesn't, like, that's deviates from the rest of the songs. It doesn't have to, like, it still fits in well enough on the album. Although this album is pretty varied. I think it's cohesive in terms of its production and kind of like it's focused more on accessibility. But this song does deviate from the rest of the songs. It doesn't have to be heavy. It didn't have a heavy section, which is crazy for four, like, unless I kind of blanked out there and didn't notice it. But yeah, for a 4 minute track, for them to not have a heavy section is crazy. I mean, I'm not against that at all. Like, there's so many songs that like start off being lighter and then get heavier, like Deftones Beware. Like, that's a great example. But I love that track. I think that the heavy section fits in that. But I don't, maybe they could have made it work, but I find often when they try to insert it, it kind of takes away from the song. And yeah, it felt like they've done other songs like that, but it still felt unique enough that it felt like its own thing. I really like that. Whoa! Oh, it's fucking chaotic. Oh, that bass. You can hear the bass, man. Oh, I thought the vocals were gonna come in there. Nibbler, come here. Come here. Come here. Nibbler's going to do the rest of the reaction with me. He's going to review the album with me. Come on, Nibbler. Come here. Come here. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. He put up with all my banging and all my head banging and all my noises and my excitement. Shit. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Oh, good boy. Good boy. That's a good boy. Did you like Gojira? Did you like Gojira? Did you like Gojira? Shake paw if you like Gojira. Shake paw if you like... There. See? He likes shake paw. He shook paw. So yeah, I thought that was good. Good album. That last track, man, that just fucking blew me away. Like that was just a real, just yeah. I don't know. You could see my reaction. That was just like super heavy in your face, and man, yeah, that was one of my favorite. I don't know. That might rival Another World for me. That last track, but it was a great 1-2 punch at the end. Like I was sort of on the fence about the album before that, to be honest. Like I thought it was good, but it was, I don't know, relying a little too much on like having catchy vocals, which I don't begrudge them for that, but yeah, it was Nibbler, why don't you sit up? Sit up. Oh, okay. It's okay, but good boy. Good boy. Yeah, like after hearing the last two tracks, I think it is a really good album. It's not, definitely not their best. I don't even think it's as good as Magma, in my opinion. Magma had just a few tracks that I like absolutely loved. The Shooting Star, Silvera, the title track. Yeah, and it just felt more cohesive. This felt kind of more like I don't know, they're making a rock album, but like not necessarily like it's heavy, and they're like certainly the last track is very, very heavy, but it's like they're see, I'm complaining about them not having variation in the tracks, but then I'm saying it's a rock album, which typically has variation in track styles. I'm saying that as in almost a negative way, but I don't know how to describe it. It's like and the songs fit together well, but at the same time it didn't feel like a cohesive whole, at least compared to Magma. But generally speaking, I think their album, like I think From Mars to Sirius is probably their most cohesive in terms of sound and songwriting, aside from Magma. But yeah, like it's just a lot of solid tracks. And I feel like this probably like is going to get them new fans. Like there are probably a lot of fans that weren't totally on board with their heavier side, and then or a lot of people that wouldn't have been on board with their heavier side, but then also they wouldn't have been on board maybe with their atmospheric side, like because maybe Magma was a little too like slow or atmospheric or whatnot. So this is kind of a middle ground where they have the atmosphere, they have catchiness, they have heaviness, they have some progressiveness, but also some more straightforward song structures. So in a sense, it's the perfect Gojira album. That doesn't mean it's my favorite by far. It isn't, but I feel like if we're going to come into if you want to get into Gojira, this is probably the album to listen to. This it contains all of their best elements and gets rid of a lot of the filler elements that they have had before. But at the same time, it doesn't have enough songs that have that real punch, that that impact, like that just sticks in your brain forever. Like Another World did that, and I think the last track, it might do that as well. Grind, yeah, like time will tell, but for the most part, it's kind of middle of the road, but in a good way. Like it'll appeal to many different sides of their fan base. So yeah, good stuff. I hope you enjoyed the video. Say goodbye, Nibs. Say goodbye. Nibbler enjoyed the Gojira. Actually, you didn't hear it because I have my headphones on, but I'll put some headphones on him later, and he'll listen to it. He'll like it. So yeah, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you enjoy content like this, consider subscribing. Let me know if you want to see more review or more reactions to metal albums, or me to talk about Gojira more, or if you want me to talk more about pop stuff, if you'd prefer that, and then leave that in the comments below. Thank you, and